My name is Brennan Hollister. I am the stable master and riding master of the household cavalry of the House of Carlo, and I had been at my desk for exactly 41 minutes when the radio on my belt clicked on, and Captain Wren Halliday, the officer of the day, said 3 sentences I will remember for the rest of my career. Stable master to box 3. We have an incident. Sovereign is fine. The tourist is in custody. The footage exists. I write the time down because I have learned that times matter. It was 1:47 in the afternoon on a Tuesday in late spring. I had been working through the next quarter's training schedule for our young geldings, 3 of them coming up to public duty standard, and I had Sovereign's name in my notes already, because Sovereign is the standard I measure them against. Sovereign is one of the calmest black geldings ever to come through our stables. I picked him for box 3 myself 6 years ago, when he was a 4-year-old who could already stand still for 40 minutes with a brass band playing 2 feet from his ear. I was on my feet before Captain Halliday finished the 3rd sentence. I had the radio pressed to my mouth as I crossed the cobbled yard. On my way to box 3. 4 minutes. I did not run, because a stable master who runs across a yard makes the horses look up, and a yard full of looking up horses is the last thing anyone needs in an incident. I walked at the steady pace of a man who has been walking through these stables for 22 years. The 400 yards from my office to the public sentry box of the House of Carlo takes a man at brisk discipline a little under 5 minutes. I made it in 4. What I found at box 3 was, in the order I registered it, Sovereign standing exactly as I had trained him to stand, his weight even on all 4 legs, his ears forward and relaxed, his nostrils not flared. Trooper Edric Vale upright in the saddle above him, gauntleted hand on the rein, saber vertical at his shoulder, eyes forward, jaw still. The trooper had not moved a muscle through any of it. The low cordon of polished brass posts and looped white rope still in place across the front of the box. 2 of our constables, Pierce and Taubin, walking a cuffed man in a red t-shirt across the cobblestones toward a waiting vehicle parked at the corner of the parade. And the crowd behind the rope line, perhaps 100 tourists by then, 4 deep, with their phones still up, filming everything. I noted the time again as I came under Sovereign's chin, 1:51. I'm going to tell you what happened in those 8 minutes between 1:43 and 1:51, because Captain Halliday's 3-sentence summary is the cleanest summary I have ever heard of an incident, and because everything that followed for the next 36 hours, the magistrate, the bail hearing, the platform notice, the news bulletin at breakfast, followed from those 8 minutes the way that one straight road follows from one straight horse. At 1:43 that Tuesday afternoon, a 27-year-old man named Marlon Vex stepped up to the rope line of box 3 with a friend at his shoulder. The friend, a man named Dale Beecham, was holding his phone horizontally in landscape orientation. Vex turned his head slightly to camera and said, loudly enough that several people on the cordon heard him clearly, "Watch this. Algorithm's going to love it." 3 women on the cordon stepped back. One of them, a French schoolteacher visiting with her sister, we have her statement, said later that her stomach turned at the words. She did not know what the man was about to do. She knew it would be wrong. What he did was step over the cordon. I want you to understand what that act is by itself before he ever raised his hand. The cordon at box 3 is not a suggestion. It is a marked civil boundary of a royal household working post, and crossing it without authorization is a Class B trespass under the Household Standing Public Conduct Order. The cordon exists for one reason. It keeps the public a clear arm's length from a 1,400-pound working military animal and from the mounted trooper in his saddle. Crossing it is a crime before anything else happens. Marlon Vex, mid-step, was already in violation. He took 2 paces forward across the cobblestones inside the cordon, raised his right hand, and brought it across Sovereign's muzzle in an open-palmed slap. I have watched the footage now. I have watched it more times than I would like. The slap is not gentle. It is the swing of a grown man who wants the camera to see his arm move. There is the sound of contact, flat, dull, unmistakable, and there is the half-beat of pure, focused silence from every phone in the rope line. And then Sovereign did exactly what I trained him to do. He executed a move forward too. I want to explain that drill because it is the spine of this story and because the magistrate, when she ruled, quoted it almost word for word from the regimental training manual that I helped write. A move forward 2 is a precise, unhurried 2-step displacement performed by a trained household cavalry working horse when the cordon of his post is breached. The horse does not rear. The horse does not bare teeth. The horse does not raise a hoof above the level of his own knee. He takes one steady step forward with the off 4, one steady step with the near 4, and stops with his chest centered exactly over the line he previously stood behind. The effect on a man standing directly in front is the gentle, immovable arrival of 1,400 pounds of calm working animal exactly where his face used to be. It is not aggression, it is geometry. The horse simply occupies the space. Marlon Vex, who was standing inside the cordon with his hand still up from the slap, had a choice. He could plant his feet and be pushed firmly backward across the line by the horse's shoulder, or he could step back himself. The footage shows him stepping back 3 stumbling paces until his calves hit the brass post of the cordon and he sat down hard on the cobblestones outside it. The whole drill, from the slap to Sovereign's chest crossing back over the line, took 4.5 seconds. It took 4.5 seconds because I spent 6 years building those 4.5 seconds into Sovereign's body. I taught the move forward 2 with a flag, then with a stick, then with a stranger in a borrowed coat, then with a sequence of strangers in increasingly aggressive costumes. A man with a balloon, a man with a megaphone, a woman with a flapping umbrella, a stagehand in a foam suit running figures of 8 in front of his nose. Sovereign did the move forward 2 with the flag in his 2nd month. He did it with the foam suit stagehand in his 5th year, and he did it without ever once breaking the calm forward set of his ears. I did not train him for spectacle, I trained him for exactly this man. There is a reason we build the drill that way. A working horse on public duty is not a tool of force. He is a working partner of the trooper above him, and his only weapons in a public cordon incident are his calm and his mass. If he uses his teeth, he has failed. If he uses his hooves, he has failed. If he raises his head and shies, he has failed. The move forward 2 is what success looks like, and success is geometric, and geometric success is, as my old riding master used to tell me when I was 23, boring. Sovereign is a profoundly boring horse to watch in an incident. That is the highest compliment I can pay him. Trooper Vale above him did not move. He did not move when the slap landed. He did not move when Sovereign began the displacement. He did not move when Vex stumbled backward across the cordon. He did not move when the crowd inhaled. He did not move when the constables converged. He is 29 years old, has been in the household cavalry 7 years, and what he did in those 4.5 seconds is what we train our mounted troopers to do above all else. Stay still, eyes forward, and let the horse and the system do their work. The trooper above a working horse on cordon duty is not a fighter. He is the still upper register of the same instrument. If he moves, the horse raids the movement and the geometry breaks. Vale did not move. The constables arrived in 87 seconds. That is the second number that matters, and it matters because 18 months ago the household tightened our working animals protection policy after a string of viral provocations elsewhere, and the policy added 2 plainclothes constables to the standing watch of every mounted public duty post in the House of Carlo. Constables Pierce and Tobin had been positioned inside the cordon's quiet corner, just behind the box, since 7 that morning. They moved the moment Vex stepped over the line. They reached him 87 seconds after the slap, by which point he was still on the cobblestones with his palm prickling and his mouth working soundlessly, trying to assemble an explanation. Pierce cuffed him at 1:48 on the dot. Tobin took the friend, Dale Beecham, by the elbow, not arrested, not yet, but firmly held, and walked to the side. Beecham's phone was still recording. Pierce took it from him and noted the time on a card. At 1:49, Captain Halliday came down from the duty office to the cordon. Halliday is a small, neat woman of 46 who has been officer of the day at the parade for 11 years and has the quietest authority I have ever met in a uniform. She did not raise her voice. She asked Vex one question. "Sir, do you understand why you are in handcuffs?" Vex told her she was overreacting. He told her it was a joke. He told her the horse was fine. He told her the cordon was confusing. He told her his phone, which had been in his own hand at the moment of the slap, had a slow-motion close-up that would prove he had barely touched the animal. Captain Halliday looked at Pierce. Pierce looked at me. I had just arrived behind her shoulder. I looked at Sovereign. Sovereign looked, as he had been looking the whole time, calmly forward into the middle distance with his ears at relaxed attention. "Constable," Halliday said, "seize Mr. Vex's phone as evidence, please." It was 1:51. I will compress what happened across the rest of that afternoon. By 2:15, Vex and Beecham were in the households holding suite at the rear of the parade. By 3, the household's legal liaison had filed the charging paperwork, Class B trespass, criminal interference with a royal household working animal under Section 11 of the Royal Household Working Animals Act, and once the friend's footage had been viewed and Vex's own slow-motion clip recovered from his phone, a recommendation for the magistrate to consider the act premeditated. By 4, Vex's footage had been transferred under chain of custody to the household evidence officer. The slow-motion clip he had shot specifically for his channel was, in the magistrate's words the next morning, the cleanest evidence of premeditated criminal conduct I have ever been presented with in this court. A man had filmed himself committing the crime in slow motion at his own expense and then handed the phone to the police on a cobblestone in front of 100 witnesses. By 5, the platform he had been streaming to had been notified by the household's communications office and presented with the time-stamped clip from Beecham's phone. The platform suspended his account at 5:27 under its own policy on content depicting criminal conduct against a person, animal, or institution. His 41,000 followers received an automatic notice that the account was no longer available. By 6, the magistrate had denied bail pending trial. She cited the public nature of the act, the deliberate filming for distribution, the cordon breach, and what she called a clear and stated intention to monetize the harming of a working animal of the royal household. Vex would spend the night in the holding cells at the parade. Beecham was interviewed and released without charge at 6:40. He left through a side door visibly shaken, refused all comment to the press, and has, to my knowledge, not posted anything to a public platform since. The duty constable who walked him out told me later that Beecham had asked one question on the way to the door, whether the horse was all right. The constable had told him the horse was eating his hay. Beecham had nodded once and walked out into the early evening without looking back. I am told the magistrate's hearing the next morning lasted 19 minutes. The prosecutor played Vex's own slow-motion clip on the courtroom screen and froze it on the frame in which Vex's open palm met Sovereign's muzzle. She let the frame sit for a count of 10. Then she played the regimental training manual's official video of a textbook move forward 2, performed 2 years earlier by Sovereign himself in a controlled exercise. The magistrate, by all accounts, did not need the second video. She had understood the first frame perfectly well. Vex's lawyer asked for community service. The magistrate, citing the platform statement of intent, "Algorithms going to love it," declined. By 9 the next morning, the case was leading the bulletins. The household had released a single line: "An individual has been charged following an interference with a working animal at Horse Guards Parade. The animal is unhurt and remains on duty." The household released no name, no footage, no photograph. The press had Beecham's clip from elsewhere by lunchtime. Somebody on the cordon had filmed Beecham filming Vex, and that clip ran on every news outlet by the evening editions. It ran as exactly what it was, a textbook deterrent. The voiceover on the national news called it the fastest arrest at Horse Guards Parade in living memory. It was not, in fact, the fastest. We have had faster, but it was the cleanest. The household received 78 letters by the close of the week. 61 of them were addressed to Sovereign. 14 were addressed to the unnamed trooper above him. 3 were addressed by name to me, sent care of the stables by horsemen of long acquaintance who had read the bulletin and recognized, in the phrase "remains on duty," a particular pattern of training they could trace to a manual they themselves had once read. 2 of those 3 letters used the words "good horse." One of them used the word "boring" with quiet affection. I wrote back to all 3. I went down to Sovereign's stall that evening at 7:15, after the last visitor had left the public side of the stable yard. I brought a sugar cube, an indulgence I do not generally allow, but I felt the day had earned one. Sovereign was at his hay net. He looked at me with the same calm forward set of ears with which he had looked at Marlon Vex 8 hours earlier. He took the sugar cube from my palm with the soft lips of a horse who has been taking sugar cubes politely for 9 years. He was exactly as professional in his stall as he had been at 143 at the box. The slap had not entered his body. The man had not entered his work. He had done his job, 1 move forward 2, geometrically perfect, and gone home to his hay net. I stood with him for a while in the warm dimness of the stable. I told him he was a good horse. I told him I was proud of him. I do not know what a horse understands of those words. I know what I understood of saying them. The next morning at 11, the public mounted guard at Box 3 changed over on schedule. Trooper Vale was relieved by Trooper Sayers. Sovereign was relieved by his stablemate, a grey gelding called Aldermaston, who is younger and not yet to Sovereign's standard, but coming along well. Sovereign walked back to the stables at the steady working pace of a horse who has done one shift and is going home to do another tomorrow. I watched from the corner of the yard. I watched the rope line crowd at box 3, 4 deep again at the cordon, phones up again. I watched them watching Aldermaston in the box and Trooper Sayers above him, and the brass posts holding the white rope at the line that Marlon Vex had crossed 20 hours earlier. I noticed the crowd was quieter, not silent. There is no silence on Horse Guards parade on a Wednesday in late spring, but quieter. The phones were up, but the voices were lower. The cordon felt, to my old stable master's eye, fully respected for the first time in a long time. An older American couple at the front of the cordon, husband and wife in matching gray jackets, asked the duty corporal in a clear carrying voice whether the horse was the horse from the news. The corporal told them it was a different shift courteously. The woman looked at Aldermaston with serious attention for a long moment, then said, "He's beautiful too." Her husband agreed. Neither of them put a hand toward the rope. A pair of younger tourists who had been laughing at the corner went quiet when they saw a uniformed constable at the cordon's edge, a new addition since yesterday, in plain view rather than positioned behind the box, and one of them put her phone away into her jacket pocket without being asked. The constable, a quiet man named Halsey, nodded to her once. She nodded back. That is the thing the training is for, not the slap, not the arrest, not the bulletin at 9. The cordon respected, the horse unbothered, the trooper motionless in the saddle, the work going on. Sovereign is back at box 3 this morning as I write this. I went out at first light and saddled him myself. He stood for the brushing as he always stands, and he walked out into the yard at the pace he always walks, and he took his post under Trooper Vale at 5 to 11 with his weight even on all 4 legs and his ears forward. A 1,400-pound calm working animal doing his job, the rope holding, the line holding, the man in the saddle above him holding, all of it holding because all of it had been built over 6 years by patient hands to hold. The algorithm did not love it after all. The court did.